Yes, this heading says values-based sexuality education. We don't primarily focus on on issues of sexuality education, though we do touch on it. But we're looking at the development of our youth in terms of character development and how that would impact on the whole issue of sexual behavior. The content overview. Crossroads is a life skills character building program based on Judeo-Christian ethics, and as role model for a person of perfect character, we look at the historical life of Jesus Christ. And for this reason, built into the system is that in our curriculum, in lesson 11 of the curriculum, you would actually show a copy of the Jesus film to the students. And the Jesus film is a word-for-word presentation of the Gospel of Luke. And you can have a look at the movie. The Jesus film come in different formats, but there's one specifically created for reaching children. It's called the Jesus film for children, and we use that one. And this red square that I'm showing you there is the app, the Jesus film app that you can download on your phone. And there are all kinds of very interesting materials there, short video clips that you can use in whatever classroom situation you find yourself in. But the whole movie is there to be seen in that app. But also, what is interesting is that they have broken down the movie into short 10, 20-second clips, which means that you can, in your classroom, you may want to teach on a specific topic coming out of the life of Jesus, and you can go to that clip and show the clip in the classroom and make it part of your lesson presentation. Now, the Crossroads strategy. The strategy was developed to address issues in society that are jeopardizing the welfare of our youth. Now, what are these issues? We've already touched on some of them. We're talking about sexually transmitted diseases like HIV and AIDS or infections. We talk about teenage pregnancies, substance abuse, which could be either drug or alcohol abuse. And but you can add on to the list whether you want to address the issue of bullying or gangsterism or whatever else. By working your way through the curriculum, you are able to address all of these issues. And the way we address these issues is by teaching the fundamentals of character development. The Crossroads strategy and curriculum, you will hear me referring to both of these. I will talk about the strategy and the curriculum. The curriculum is basically part of the strategy, but it is a larger strategy than just the curriculum. The strategy and the curriculum is based on the following beliefs. The best way to solve the problems of STIs and adolescent pregnancy is to choose abstinence before marriage and fidelity within marriage. The message of the curriculum is you are able to make good choices that can help you to live a risk-free life. We believe in you, you can do it. Second philosophy is abstinence and fidelity are behavioral choices. Healthy behavioral choices are outcomes of one's values and character, and one's behavioral choices are best influenced through a relationship with Jesus. Now, as I've said, the Crossroads strategy is basically focusing on risk avoidance rather than risk reduction. And therefore, in any of our present or in the curriculum, you don't find a lesson on safe sex, for instance, or condom use or that kind of thing. the message that we give to children is that we can help you to live a completely risk-free life by adhering to principles of abstinence before marriage and fidelity within marriage. Now, the life of the Crossroads curriculum is only one of 4 ways the Crossroads strategy addresses issues in society. The 4-part strategy includes the following components. There is, first of all, the teacher-student connection. Now, this is where you, as the teacher, or whoever else, whichever, how shall I put it? You don't have to be a teacher to use the Crossroads curriculum. Wherever you find a way to implement, or wherever you find yourself in a situation that you want to have an influence on how children develop, you can use the Crossroads strategy by teaching the Crossroads curriculum. Now, that's the first point of connection. The second one is the parent-teacher partnership. Built into each one of the Crossroads lessons, there are pages that inform the parent at home what you've been doing in the classroom, and actually ways in which we try to foster conversation between the parent and the child at home, to continue the conversation at home as well. Now, this might be a good thing or could be a bad thing. Sometimes when you hear what kind of advice parents give to their children, you almost wish they wouldn't speak to the parent. But it would be good if we're not talking about what was the word, Ryan, that you've used? Dysfunctional home. Parents is the first line of influence in the life of the child, and it would be good to get that conversation going. Third strategy component is peer leadership. Instead of teaching the curriculum in a classroom setting, you can form a Crossroads club at home or wherever you want to, and invite anybody to come and from there teach the curriculum. But that is where we focus on accountability and positive peer pressure, helping children to influence each other to make better choices. Now, the sky's the limit as to where you can apply these things. It just so happens that a person here in Wellington went through our training and didn't know where to teach the curriculum, and he came up with, he had a son, and the son's birthday was approaching, and he didn't know what to choose as a theme for the birthday party for the son, and he decided to teach one of the Crossroads lessons as a birthday party. And you wouldn't believe it, it went down so well that classmates of the boy approached this man and said to him, when my son's birthday is coming up, would you teach the next lesson? It really opens up conversation. You get involved, and I think that's the main issue. You need to engage if you want to help young people. And they need to be able to trust you and speak to you and communicate what's going on inside of them. And then they can process life and the issues in life. And lastly, last level of outreach would be what we would refer to as the community outreach, where we try to engage the community as a whole. We have a lot of, I work for Campus Crusade for Christ. Crossroads is a strategy of Campus Crusade for Christ. And we have another strategy that is called the Family Life Strategy, and that focuses more on issues of healthy marriages and how to resolve building healthy homes and how to resolve conflict in the home and that kind of thing. Lots of material available there, so that once you have the child involved and you can get to the parent, then you have more material to use in the community than what is to your disposal in the Crossroads curriculum. Okay, since it is a character building course, 6 pillars of good character. We have chosen, I think there might be other definitions or other people might use different ones, but these are the 6 pillars of good character that we use in teaching the curriculum. Trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and good citizenship. Now, just to engage young people in a discussion on what these words mean is already of help to them. But we'll come back to this later on. We also, in our approach, the Crossroads curriculum is trying to develop the whole person. And to help them to understand that, we talk about the 5-fold makeup of the human being, the physical, the emotional, the mental, the social, and the spiritual. And we teach that you need to be a healthy person in all 5 of those dimensions in order to be a healthy individual. You know, I like to, when I teach the lesson, to stand in front of the class and say to them, do I look healthy to you? And these days they would tell me things like, oh, you look a bit old, but you do look healthy. And I would say, now, how can you tell? No, but they give their reason, and I would say, but how do you know what's going on inside of my head? How do you know what's going inside of my heart? I might not be healthy after all. And the aim is to develop the whole person, and as you see, there's this blank spot in the middle. We explain to them over time, this doesn't happen in one lesson, there are 28 lessons in total, but over time we explain to them that you can't have 5 horses running down the road and see them as one individual. One of them need to exercise control over the other 4. And which one is it going to be? And towards the end of the curriculum, we lead them through a discussion where they explore the possibility of each of the other ones being the one giving leadership to the other 4, and eventually they come up with their own conclusion that the spiritual one is the only one that would be able to give direction to the other 4. Now, material format and resources include, as I've said, this is a curriculum of 28 lessons, and it was designed it was meant to be providing a teacher with a lesson per week for the whole school year. But I can tell you up front that you need a good 45 minutes. You do need 45 minutes to present this lesson well, which is not happening. It's may not be available in the school where you're teaching. I taught to the primary school where the classes were only 30 minutes long. So I had to spend 2 weeks on one lesson. So this is the reality, 28 lessons, and they are divided into 5 units. Unit 1 deals only with relationships, relationship with yourself and relationship with others. And the bottom line here is that we explain to the philosophy behind this thing is that people take good care of something they value. And if they don't value themselves, they don't take good care of themselves. And this is basically what happens in those first 6 lessons is how to explore these ideas. Unit 2, the character connection. This is where you bring the 6 pillars, put them on the table and begin to explain how that would play out in the life of this child. Lesson 7 is the pivotal point of the whole curriculum. That is where a lot of this explaining happens. And I can tell you up front that you need at least 2 sessions for that one. But as I've said, the character connection is the 2nd unit. Then we come to the 3rd unit, which is what a lot of the conversations today centers on. Sex in perspective. I have to say that we don't specialize in, it never becomes a sex education lesson in any of the lessons of that unit. It's always it looks at sexual behavior against the backdrop of good character, how good character would play out in sexual behavior. And like lesson 13, the intimacy and marriage. That's where we explain why these concepts are fidelity within marriage is important, for instance, and what it means. And the whole idea of children believing that they have to be sexually active, to counteract that by explaining what intimacy actually is, and that there's more forms of intimacy than sexual intimacy, and that the real thing they're actually after is intimacy, period. How to build intimacy in your relationship with others so that your emotional needs are getting met. And that is why you can abstain from sexual behavior until you get married. So all of those lessons in that section deals with issues of sexuality. This is in each and every one of these lessons, there is an activity page where you involve the whole class to make decisions for themselves. I can just say here that we don't like the idea of lecturing. We focus on interactive learning. So we involve the class in decision making. And for that reason, there's an activity built into every lesson. And this is, for instance, that page that you see there is an activity that is a page that comes from the first lesson there, intimacy and marriage. Can you actually see what is going on there? You will see in the center there are square rectangles that at the top it says reasons for sexual behavior, and then underneath that they say sex for curiosity's sake, becoming sexually active for recreation purposes, sex to be loved and appreciated. Sex for power, sex for money, sex for satisfying cultural beliefs. That whole thing of you're not a man or a woman until you've fathered a child or had a child. Sex for children's sake and to have children, and sex to express love and intimacy. And on the sides of both sides of that column, you see the words that refer to the 6 pillars of good character. Trustworthiness, respect, and so forth. And then the children in their discussion groups has to sit down and draw a line from each one of the circles to a square or a rectangle that they would pair that character quality up with. And can you see that you get them engaged and they enter into this discussion, and eventually they come to the point where they tell you, but only the last one can be connected to all of the pillars. In other words, you help them to see the connection between making character-based decisions and sexual behavior, how that would play out. Then the last 2 units of the curriculum, life skills, has to do with making good choices, and the last one, navigating your future. That's a very positive unit in the curriculum, and that's where they take charge of what they want to become eventually. And it's really positive also in the sense that by now many of them would tell you, but I've messed up my life already. Now that you teach them how to make a new start and decide for yourself where you want to go. In unit 4 and 5, we focus on how to carry out your dream, how to materialize your dreams. The first 3 units focuses on motivation and content or knowledge. And the last 2 focus on how to do these things, how to make them work out in your life. This it takes much more than knowledge to change behavior. Why would you teach the curriculum? Because you want to see change in behavior. You want to see them make good choices and stay risk-free. And in order to accomplish change in behavior, educationists tell us that you need to teach on 3 levels: knowledge, attitude, and skill. And all 3 of them needs to be present, or you're not accomplishing your goal. Now, the lessons in the curriculum is designed in such a way that they touch on all 3 of these legs. The knowledge part would be the lecturing part of your lesson, and really it's about 1/10 of the time you spend in that class. Then comes the attitude side. We always say they need to know what is right, they need to love what is right, and they need to be able to do what is right. Now, how do you influence the attitude towards the content? It's basically by creating a safe atmosphere for children to be heard, to speak, not to be laughed at, to ask their questions, and to engage with discussions on the topic. That all of those, and to have a likable presenter, and that's the attitude side of it, and then the skills side of it is that built into every lesson is an opportunity to teach children how to actually do what they've decided to do. There's one lesson, and I know you run into these often, but just the issue of how to say no in such a way that people believe you, and in such a way that you can stand with your convictions. Teaching on all of those levels. The photograph that you see there is a teacher doing one of these activities, and kids love them. We always say if you have too little time to teach a whole lesson, if you can let them do the activity, and you as presenter can process the activity well so that they understand what it's about, then the penny is dropped. That's just part of the presentation. In each and every one of these lessons, there is such an activity. I've made a note there at the bottom, optional resource, Jesus as role model. We refer to it as John. Because we take Jesus as role model, and we're not normally, we're not used to looking at him in that way. He's God, and he's the person in the Bible, but we never look at him as a man. And this John is a short series of 6 lessons that help take you to an exercise of looking at, for instance, how did Jesus display responsibility in his life? How did it play out in his life? And you let them see that Jesus, the man, had to make good decisions as well. Age group for teaching the curriculum, it works best with grade 7s, but from grades 6 to 12 you can teach them in all grades at school. The cost of the training, I've mentioned 2 amounts here. The bottom line is it depends on who wants to get trained and what part do I have to play in presenting the training, and what part the group that wants to get trained would play. But just to print the material would cost about 500 rands, and if you want to add refreshments, it's a 3-day training, and if you want to add refreshments or meals or whatever else, it can go up to about 800 rands per person for the training. Training opportunities and requirements. In order for you to receive the file that has the 28 lessons inside of it, you have to do a 3-day training. We refer to it as a teacher's training and a TT. COVID has forced us to think differently about these issues. So at this point, I'm willing to train 1 person. but it's a different kind of training, and it would take more than 3 days. It would basically boil down to on-the-job training, where I would come in and go with you through the training and help you to begin to present the lessons wherever you want to use them. Sorry. The moment they start spraying the veneers, I start coughing. CAPS compliance. Whenever a school teacher goes through the TT, they get 15 points, PDP points, and we also do refresher courses, and for each refresher course that they do, they also get 15 points. And that's the end of my story. I know it was only a snapshot, but if you want to know more, if you want to see the curriculum, please come to my table. I have it there, and yeah. Thank you.
Marais, thank you for that impactful presentation. Life at the Crossroads sounds like such a great and exceptional character building program, and I think you'll agree with me, ladies and gentlemen, that especially these days and with all the social media, character gets neglected in favour of personality. But we know that character is the foundation that we build a life on. If you don't have good character, you won't be able to build a good life. And if you take a building metaphor, I've got an uncle who's a QS, a quantity surveyor, and if the foundation of the building isn't right, especially if it's the building's more than one story, you will always have issues. You will always have those cracks in the walls. You can fix them up, they're going to come back. And even though that's an incredibly expensive exercise to rebuild the foundation, it's often worth the cost in the long run. So if we take that as a metaphor for our lives, it just emphasizes how important character is.